Maori All Blacks up against Ireland, game number 2, folks. It's the penultimate game of the Irish tour of New Zealand, obviously overshadowed by the main test and the fact that that tour is now on a knife edge at one apiece. There's a lot of interest in that final game, but before that we got this game tomorrow, which is Tuesday time here at NZ, Tuesday evening from Wellington. Maori All Blacks taking on Ireland. Obviously, it's not the same team Ireland put out on the weekend, and it's not the same team Ireland's going to put out this coming weekend. And even the Maori All Blacks team has been changed a little bit. We'll go through some of the key personnel and the predictions, and you guys can let me know your thoughts on this one. Game 1 finished 32 points to 17. It was actually a pretty decent win for the Maori All Blacks. A lot of Super Rugby talent in that Maori All Blacks team who've just come off the back of their season, and a lot of these guys were in good form and they showed it, and a fair few of these guys have played for the Maori All Blacks before, so it wasn't kind of entirely surprising. For the Irish, I guess they were a wee bit disappointed that they didn't get a better result, but still the camp, I would say the mood in camp is a wee bit better now after the most recent weekend than it was after the last one. For the Māori All Blacks, they have made a few changes, like I said. It's the same front row with Lomax, Eklund and Norris. Lomax has kind of been in and out of the All Blacks camp proper, with Laulala having a wee bit of a back niggle, but he's not been called into action, so it's back to Māori All Blacks duties for him. Selby-Rickit comes into the second row alongside Walker-Leawere. Selby-Rickit's kind of been there or thereabouts for a wee while. Never quite, I guess, looked at as the guy who's going to be the next cab off the rank, with guys like Josh Lord and Tupou Vai'ienko kind of above him in the pecking order, but he's played in like the North-South game, which kind of shows you where his stocks are in New Zealand rugby. And then Reid Princep's also into the team. Kind of, I feel like a little bit underappreciated, Reid Princep. He's a bit of a workhorse, doesn't do that much flashy stuff, so people don't rate him that highly. I reckon he's a solid enough player without being spectacular, so we'll see if he's able to kind of put his hand up and shine a little bit in this Tuesday game. Harmon and Grace were pretty good in the last one, and they continue on at 7 and 8. There's a lot of people in New Zealand who say Cullen Grace should be in the All Blacks squad proper because he is a real jack of all trades and pretty good at most of the aspects of his game, to be fair. Perenara continues the kind of Hurricanes theme of this team. A lot of the guys they've brought in to start are Hurricanes players, which makes sense given that they're going to be at the Hurricanes home ground. So he's captain alongside Brad Weber. So those guys are swapping roles from last time, with TJ starting and Brad being on the bench. Josh Ioane continues on at 10. And then Sullivan is up into the 13 jersey alongside Nankivell. So it's a new midfield combo compared to the team we saw last time. Nankivell is another one who, he's not a Hurricanes player, but in terms of Super Rugby form, was really cutting it up. He was one of the 4 midfielders in New Zealand rugby, so this will be an interesting test for him to see if he's kind of in there. No, it's not a full test, to take that level beyond Super Rugby to see kind of where his stocks are at. Garden-Bachop and Stevenson on the wings, and Stevenson was obviously pretty sharp. And then Josh Moorby is an exciting one at fullback. I'm a little bit disappointed for Zahn Sullivan, because I thought he had a really good game against the Irish, that big boot of his and good aerial ball work, but Moorby, he's a Hurricanes player. They're at the Hurricanes home ground, and as I said, in terms of just pure excitement, form players, really exciting ball carrier, you could do worse than putting Josh Moorby in there. So congrats to him. I think it's his Māori All Blacks debut. Apisai, Williams and Renata are the forward replacements, so 2 of those guys coming into the squad, and Apisai and Renata. Apisai has been a bit of a everywhere man this season, because he was kind of filling in for multiple Super Rugby teams with with COVID meaning teams were kind of short of players. He popped up for several teams, which was a bit unusual, so good for him to be in the Māori All Blacks squad. Hicks and Delaney likewise into the squad. We're down to the bench, like I mentioned. Ruben Love continues on the bench, and Billy Proctor down to the bench. So it's a fairly changed side. I mean, the core of the squad is still there, but enough changes to make sure that everyone who was kind of in that squad initially is at least getting something of a run. They're not just called up not to get a game. For the Irish, as I said, obviously it's not the same team that played at the weekend. There are a few guys who featured on the bench who still feature here, but I mean the starting lineup of Loughman, Scannell and O'Toole. Remember, Loughman played in that first game where they had the kind of concussion debacle where he got knocked out, and somehow there was a muck-up administratively or something where they let him go back on, which was a bit of a travesty. But he's back, he stayed with the squad, and he's going to get a second game out of this tour, so fingers crossed he doesn't have any such incident. This time, McCarthy and Treadwell are in the locks, and I'll be keen to see if they can cause the Māori All Blacks line-out a bit of bother at line-out time, but we'll have to wait and see. Prendergast, Timoney and Coombes. I really like that back row, man. I mean, I know none of these guys have got game time for the Irish squad proper, and there was a lot of talk about Coombes maybe getting a crack after Doris was a wee bit quiet in the first game, although he corrected that in the second, didn't he? But yeah, that's I mean, the tackles of Timoney, Coombes' ball carrying in the all-round game of Prendergast, that's pretty tidy. Casey and Frawley also get another crack. Frawley is one that's got a lot of potential in him, but yeah, he's kind of like a lot of guys in Ireland. They kind of struggle for game time because you just got too many pieces to get in. So this kind of game is perfect for for getting guys that bit of game time without having to kind of risk dropping one of your main guys for a kind of must-win game. This is kind of that perfect fill-in game. McCloskey, who's been flown over as a replacement, is going to get a game, which is pleasing to see. I love that guy. He's a big unit. Yeah, the Māori All Blacks better watch out when he's carrying the ball at them. Keith Earls is in there at outside centre. He is captain this week, experienced hand to kind of lead a relatively young side. He featured in games 1 and 2, but obviously with Hansen being back, he's kind of taken a step down the pecking order, though Hansen is in this squad as well, albeit on the bench. And then the outside backs with Jimmy O'Brien, Jordan Larmour and Mike Lowry. That's also pretty exciting. So I do think there's a lot to like about this this Irish team, albeit kind of not the test side in terms of the development and a bit of exposure. Some experienced guys, like I mentioned, like Larmour and Earls and whatnot. I mean, Casey's been capped. There's a lot of talent on the side. So given that they've been in New Zealand a wee bit longer, they've been training together. Keen to see them take another step up. Herring, Byrne and Bealham are the forward replacements or front rowers. Baird and Conan. So Baird hasn't had much game time this tour, but Conan's been on the bench a couple of times for the actual test side. Murray, Carbery and Hansen. Kind of back up after playing on Saturday as well. So should be a really interesting one, folks. I am keen to see a bit of the depth tested for both New Zealand and Ireland for this tour. It is on in Wellington. It's a 7:05 evening game here in NZ. I think it's 8:05 in the morning for you guys in Ireland. So get up on Tuesday, work day. If you're working from home, chuck the telly on, put the kettle on, have a cuppa, have some brekkie, and watch some rugby. It's as I said, on in Wellington. Māori All Blacks are predicted to win with the bookies, but by a solitary 1 point. So I guess Ireland's stock with the bookmakers maybe raised up a wee bit with the performance at the weekend. But anyway, you guys let me know your thoughts on this one. How do you see both these squads going? And I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.